You know, with all the modern roads and vehicles we have today, we can go across the county in just a matter of an hour, according on the size. And in a day's drive, you can go across 3 or 4 states with today's interstates and all these modern vehicles. But these old Appalachian mountains, they're vast. And they didn't have all them modern roads back in the day. Every place had a little community just a couple of miles apart. Places like this. And it was an all-day job in some of these rural areas just to go down to the city or town next door and do some trading. In old places, the old country, just a little old bitty road. And it was a chore just to get out and go to town. And they had nothing but little old roads like this back in the day. And they still do today in these rural areas. And they're slow go. But I'm going to share with you of some of the old times of how they used to trade in these mountains. And this is a way of life, back the way our elders used to tell us. Now, the first thing you got to understand about these rural Appalachians, and just country people in general, those stubble back then didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. And what they had, they didn't put it in no bank. They hid it, or they invested it in something they could use for them and their family on their property. And back then, they done a lot of trading. And no money usually ever passed hands. No cash dealing at all. I'll trade you this for that. Or I'll trade you my labor for that. That's the way it was. And you looked a man in the eye, and you shook his hand and made a deal. And if you broke your deal, you broke your bond. Your word was your bond. And everybody in these little tight communities knowed each other. And when you broke your bond, nobody would deal with you. And you dare wouldn't shame the family name. Now, they didn't have no money, but they had plenty of stuff to trade with. Stuff that they'd worked and put hard labor in. They had plenty to trade, whether it be in food or livestock or whatever. Trading an old hog, or the labor of help slaughtering a hog in the fall. Or old household items that they had accumulated down through the generations. When they got in a bad bind, they would trade this stuff. Now, they either made it, raised it, or traded for it, or they just done without. A lot of times they would just use their labor just for a good hot meal or a place to stay. So they had plenty of trading going on. And they would plow these fields just for a piece of the harvest. They done this a lot, especially sharecropping. That's how that went. And a lot of these women, they would just wash clothes for a company, logging company or mining company next door, or just a store, just for their services. And these people, most of them lived like this up these old hollers back then, didn't have a penny to their name, house full of kids. But they was always seemed like somebody in the community that had a lot of land and was doing well off. Well, they was always needing labor to work these farms. Every community back in them days had a place that they would get together on the weekend to do some trading. They call these trade markets. Well, nowadays they just call them flea markets. But it's the same thing, basically. And most little communities, or every little crossroad really, had a little old country store where people could trade and get stuff that you just couldn't make. Like flour and meal, sugars. They couldn't make sugar. and certain little items, salt, and they'd go to all these little country stores. Here's some pictures of some, all through these Appalachian mountains. And everybody knowed each other. They knowed everybody. So you got to earn each other's trust over time. Families' names for kids, and everybody knowed everybody. And that's just the way it was in these small communities. And they done a lot of trading at these stores. Mama used to tell me, we're going to go do some trading, we're going to go get a bill of groceries. And they usually keep a tab at these old stores, because nobody really had no money. They'd trade pop bottles and stuff when you could find them, the kids mostly. But here on the farms, these fresh eggs was really a prize item at these stores. They would trade for them real easy for what you needed. And meat too, smoked meat, beef, hogs. They loved this at them stores, and they were really eager to trade too. But when you couldn't trade, you kept a tab at the store in your name, and you'd pay it off monthly or whatever your arrangement or agreement was. They'd keep a tab, so you could buy whatever you want, but you had to pay it off. And a lot of people in these farms back then growed big backer patches, and they would agree to pay their bill and tab off these little old country stores when they got paid in the fall. When they sowed their crop, got it sowed, they had a good Christmas, paid their taxes, and paid their bills at these little stores. So everybody benefited in the communities from doing it this way, and it was all a matter of trust. Even at these old gas stations, run tabs up, and you'd pay that off. You'd get so much gas for the farm or your vehicle, and you'd pay it off on a tab. And they done a lot of horse and mule trading too. Always doing that, needing a team of mules or horses. And people really loved doing this. And there was an art to it too. They'd even do some trading for shoeing their horses and mules. They got to know all this stuff. And they knowed how to check for scams too. And they done a lot of old trading for cars and trucks on these old farms out in these rural communities just by handshake. These are just old vehicles of the past here. But many of them was traded this way. Even old tractors for the farm. Somebody wanted to go from mules to a tractor, or their tractor was tore up, so they done a lot of trading. And they done a lot of trading for land too. Never passed cash at all. They would usually have a witness though when they done this. They would work the land so long for a piece of land in exchange for owning it. And back then in the old days, they started bringing the stores to the rural communities. Little trucks selling furniture and items that people just couldn't get down to the cities to see. They call them rolling stores. Pots and pans, little stuff for the kitchen and the household items that the women really love. All kinds of little rolling stores. They sell clothing, like I said, pots and pans, kitchen, houseware. And the women really loved this because they couldn't make some of this stuff. And there used to be somebody come around in the communities ever so often that was sharpening saws, knives, scissors, stuffing knives all around the house. And this was a special skill in itself. Anybody could about sharpen a knife or scissors. But when it comes to these cutting saws, before the power saws come out, this was a skill. And if you didn't know what you was doing, you was wasting your time. These people knowed what they was doing when they sharpened the teeth on these saws. This was a skill, and it was in high demand at one time. And yes, every community had this every once in a while. They called them swindlers, shysters. We call them scammers nowadays. You just couldn't trust them. But once the name got out on these people, they didn't dare show their face in the communities no more. But this happened from time to time. And these old people, especially these old men, on a personal note, they knowed how to trade. They'd always trying to better the other one on a trade. That was just the way it was. But they loved to whittle. And man, I'm telling you what, they loved their pocket knives. They traded all the time for pocket knives. This was a really highly sought after item of all kinds. There ain't no country boy or old mountain man didn't have a pocket knife in his breeches. That's for sure. And they trade for old hunting dogs. They love to trade for dogs, buddy. Shotguns, anything to do with hunting, outdoor equipment. They love that stuff. That's just the way it was in these mountains. And I've known them trading for shine too. A lot of people traded for shine or stuff to make shine with. There's always some kind of trading going on. But it was on trust. And the best thing I liked about these mountains, this didn't cost nobody nothing. The bigger cities and libraries would come in here and give books to the rural area kids, bringing the outside world to them. I thought that was so nice. It's places they would never see. Now these people, your word was your bond. And if you broke your bond, nobody would deal with you in the community anymore, because they was a tight-knit community, so everybody knowed everybody. You earned your hand and your trust by your bond. But once you broke your bond, you broke your word. And you didn't dare ever shame the family name. So I hope you enjoy these little stories. I'm just sharing stuff through pictures and these stories of our past, of our old elders in these mountains. And a lot of this still goes on today. But a lot of people know nothing about these mountains, so I'm trying to show you. So I want to thank you for watching. God bless, and I'll see you next time.